Folks, welcome to this Connecting in the Cloud session. This is the first of a four-part series on AI. Welcome to our members and non-members. To our non-members, this is one of many reasons to join ETC as well. Once this session's over, there'll be a lot more happening in the background on our listserv, so on and so forth. So you want to be a part of that. So as soon as this session's over, make sure you go click the link to join ETC right away. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Please make sure your camera and audio is turned off at all times as our presenters go through this session. Put all your questions in the chat, and Trey will pose the questions to our presenters as the session goes on. And once the recording is complete at the end, we're going to have an open session where you're welcome to stick around and have a conversation with whoever's left at that point. All right, so without further ado, Trey, I shall turn this over to you.
Thank you, George. Well, today we are going to have Richard Mitchell from Biamp and Pasha Antonenko from University of Florida College of Education kind of give us a run through of what is AI in higher education's foundations of AI and working with our college IT departments. We're hopefully going to get to looking at some case studies and preparing IT departments for this. I believe near the end, we're going to stop the recording and have a kind of more open discussion for anybody that wants to talk about things they don't want to put in the chat. I am going to be keeping an eye on the chat and putting questions out from there, and hopefully be keeping some time. But for right now, I'm going to pass it over to Pasha, who is going to talk to us about the AI revolution in higher education. Pasha?
Thank you, Trey. Hello, colleagues. I'm Pasha Antonenko, a professor of education technology at the University of Florida. I'll start us off with a discussion of what AI is, what AI is not, foundations, interesting applications of AI, and then Richard and I will tag team on this. All right, I'm gonna share my slides here, and you all should see my screen now. All right. So, AI revolution in higher education. What is AI? What is AI? Can you folks put in chat a word or a phrase that comes to your mind when you think AI?
Robot overlord, right?
Robot overlord. All right, that works, I guess. Okay, I'll show you what you can find on the web. If you Google artificial intelligence, you will find that AI is apparently a blue wired brain, sometimes a cyborg. So here are some representative pictures of AI on the web. Let's see. iRobot, says George in chat. Here's what a lot of my students here at the University of Florida think AI is. And they basically think it's ChatGPT, right? And so that's probably understandable because ChatGPT pretty much transformed a lot of our society starting November 2022. We can now ask all kinds of questions and generate all kinds of text and images and things like this using ChatGPT, using DALL-E, right? So to many people, this is what AI is. Really, AI is algorithms and data structures. It's not, blue brains with a bunch of wires or cyborgs. And so there is code that takes data, takes input, runs it through layers of processing, right? Identifying features that separate, let's say, class A from class B, and then as an output allows us to, let's say, classify data, right, is a common application. So we'll look at a couple of examples here in a minute. U.S. Department of Education released this interesting report, I guess it's a book, Artificial Intelligence in the Future of Teaching and Learning, Insights and Recommendations. This was just released a few months ago. And so according to them, they have like 5 different definitions of AI. This is one I liked. And so this is pretty much any computer system that is able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. So these tasks include visual perception, speech recognition, learning, decision-making, natural language processing, right? So if we think about ChatGPT, really this is mostly about natural language processing, right? So AI is a lot bigger than just ChatGPT, clearly. Another definition from this book that I liked was any computational method that is made to act independently towards a goal based on inferences that it makes from theory or patterns in data, usually from patterns in data, right? Yes, and so there are some nice definitions in chat: learning by machines or machine learning. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Before we go much further, I wanted to play a very quick clip. This is from a show on HBO called Silicon Valley. I don't know how many of you folks have seen it, but this was one of the earliest illustrations of AI, like in popular media, I guess, in terms of, well, we're not going to talk about Terminator, I guess, but so this would be around 2017. AI for social good type thing, yeah.
Wow, Dinesh, this front end design looks great.
Thank you.
Nice work.
What's in that? That is a burrito for the test. Good to know.
Oh, let him have it. Guildford thought he was too good to work on seafood, and now he's about to lose a fortune.
Okay,
Ready for test.
Please, God.
what will you say if I told you there is an app on the
We're
market?
past that part. Just demo it.
Okay, let's start with a hot dog.
Pizza. Let's do pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza.
Pizza.
Not hot dog? That's it? It only does hot dogs?
No, and a not hot dog.
Give it to me.
Unions actually put together a pretty good classifier. You know, I mean, the core tech is valid. It just needs to be trained.
So what he did for hot dogs, he needs to repeat for every food in existence.
No, that's a very boring work. It's a scraping the internet for thousands of food pictures. You can hire someone else.
All right, so this is basically it in short, right? This is what an AI model looks like. This is a computer vision model in this case, right? It was trained using a bunch of images of hot dogs to say whether something is a hot dog or not a hot dog. Because if you wanted for it to identify other foods, you would need to obviously scrape the internet. You would need to create a huge data set of pizza slices and burritos and whatever else.
Hey, Pasha, we got a question from
Sure.
someone at Iowa State, of all places.
Oh, interesting. My alma mater.
How do we define AGI versus machine learning or genetic algorithms?
All right, we're going there. We're getting there. We will. So basically, artificial intelligence is the oldest term. It goes back to 1940s, really. 1946, I believe, is when Alan Turing published a book on computing machinery. And then he, of course, in early 1950s, developed the Turing test, which was basically if a human cannot distinguish data produced by AI versus by a human, this machine is really intelligent, basically is the bottom line. Then around 1980s, 1990s, computer scientists specifically started looking into machine learning and developing algorithms that would allow them to define features of data that differentiate, let's say, one data set from another data set, and then use these machine learning algorithms for applications like email, spam filtering and things like this. And then most recently, deep learning is the current trend. And I actually have a slide that talks about the difference. So this is how machine learning typically works. So let's see, person's name was Mike Peterson. Yeah. So yeah, AI is like the overarching term, I would say, the oldest term. I personally don't care much for that term. It's outdated. Machine learning is really the term that captures it the best, I think. And so typically in machine learning, you have your data, training data, right? In this case, pictures of cats, dogs, and birds. And then someone labels the data, the features that can be used to differentiate cats from dogs and from birds, right? And then an algorithm learns to use these features to actually classify the data. And then when you presented a picture of a cat, it will actually accurately say, this is a cat, right? So this is typically how this works. Here is a key difference between machine learning and deep learning. So these are the core terms that I use today when we talk about artificial intelligence, because machine learning algorithms, because data are annotated when you do machine learning, there is a human that actually labels the features, right, that are going to be used for classification purposes or recognition purposes. Data set doesn't have to be large, right, because it's already annotated. The human can choose their own features in the pictures, let's say cats and dogs, right, the ears, the eyes, whatever else, the nose. You can create many classifiers based on these data because you're in charge of figuring out what features would be used to classify the data, right? And that's why you can have potentially many classifiers. And training time is pretty short. And I can provide like an illustration of machine learning if we have time for this. With deep learning, the big difference is there is no human intervention, okay? And so there is no one person who sits there and labels the features that will be used to classify cats from dogs from birds, right? So the idea is that the algorithm will figure this out by itself. That's why you need a large data set. You need, thousands, hundreds, and then tens of thousands of pictures of cats, dogs, birds, whatever else. Then the algorithm will actually cluster the data based on the differences it perceives. It will present typically the data to the researcher to like approve or not approve. And basically because of this, the training time is long and you need significant computational power for this, right? This is why we have these supercomputers like the one we have here at the University of Florida. We call it HyperGator, high performance computer, right? A lot of GPU clusters and stuff like that to actually do this well. So the big difference between machine learning and deep learning, something to take home, I guess, is deep learning uses raw unstructured data, whereas machine learning uses annotated, pre-labeled data. And so deep learning can be done without human intervention, which makes it fully sort of machine-driven, right? Whereas with machine learning, a human has to actually annotate the data. So I can pause here and give the mic to Richard, or I can keep going. How would we like to proceed?
Well, technically, you have 6 minutes left.
Okay, I can keep going. All right, so I'll give you
only 6. So
only 6. All right.
I was told to keep time.
Sure. Please stop me then. How many of you folks have heard of Teachable Machine? Google's Teachable Machine. All right, Richard has, right? So I'll show you a quick demo of Teachable Machine. I do this with middle schoolers. I know we're talking here about higher ed, and I teach future teachers. So these are the kinds of things we do with them. So we'll start a new project, and we'll make it an image project. We'll use a standard image model. This is being recorded, I think, so you guys will be able to review if you're interested. We can create a class. So we're going to classify shark teeth. We'll have cutting teeth and I think crushing teeth. And so we're gonna quickly find the folders. with my data. There's my cutting teeth, and I have 100 teeth here. Okay, so these cutting teeth are megalodon great white, triangular teeth with serrations, essentially. You see we're using different backgrounds, different orientations also. The more of this you do, the better your classifier is going to be at actually correctly recognizing the images, right? And then we're gonna do this with grasping teeth. And while I'm doing this, I will also explain that we're doing this with middle schoolers who learn about the structure and function in biology, and how, in this case, the feeding habits of these different sharks determine what kind of tooth morphology they're going to have. Like, see, these teeth are very narrow; they're grasping teeth, whereas these are crushing teeth. And so now we can train a model. This is how quickly you can do it. It's free also. You can do it with any kind of image. You can create 100, gather 100 images of, whatever. And then you can show it a picture in the using the webcam, or you can upload a picture for recognition. And so I'm just gonna go to my desktop where I have some fresh images. And so let's use this megalodon tooth. All right, so it identified it as a grasping tooth, which is actually incorrect. And so let's see, it should be a cutting tooth. And this may tell me that, my data set is not big enough. Okay, this one it identifies actually correctly as a cutting tooth. Or maybe it's the background that played a role here. And so that's why we do this testing. Okay, this one it also identifies pretty much incorrectly as a grasping tooth. It has a lot going on the background. But this creates a bunch of interesting implications for teaching, right? Because you can spend time with the kids and discuss why sometimes AI models make mistakes like this. It usually means that your data set is not big enough or diverse enough, right? And so it creates a lot of interesting opportunities for teaching this stuff, right? And so let's talk a little bit about generative AI, right? So one of the key methods behind artificial intelligence, machine learning, is neural networks, artificial neural networks. And there are all different kinds of them. There are convolutional neural networks and backpropagation neural networks. You can take a bunch of courses or MOOCs if you wish on this. But, I used some generative AI tools in preparation for this meeting to basically see how they can help me explain some of this stuff. And so I used ChatGPT, and it gave me basically an essay explaining the notion of artificial neural networks. The prompt I use is explain how artificial neural networks work, right? Then I used a tool called Beautiful AI. I don't know how many of you folks have heard of it, but basically it is AI-based PowerPoint, if you will. You can create slides. And so all I wrote here is I told it, create a presentation on how neural networks work. And then I gave it a resource, and the resource was this AWS, Amazon Web Services page on neural networks, right? So it used that content and created a presentation for me here that I could have used with you, potentially. And then I used DALL-E, which is like an image generator, right, by OpenAI. I tried to create a map of Alachua County in Florida where we live, and it created a fictional map. It didn't want to create an actual map. But it did create these representations of neural nets, and you see they're pretty artsy. The big notion with neural nets is there are layers, there are input layers, there are hidden layers that process information received through input layers, and then there are output layers. And so if we go back to our teachable machine, we can look at this as the input layer. This would be behind this training model are hidden layers, right? And this is the output created by an output layer in this case. And so again,
we're at the time marker. So
all right, well, I'll stop here, and then if we have more time, I can show more stuff or we can discuss.
All right, Richard.
Absolutely. So I just want to briefly talk about So how does this new technology impact our universities, and what we should expect as we move forward? Because again, Pasha did a great job articulating how these systems work, but how will we interact in this new environment that we're going to be dealing with? And the first thing I wanted to chat about was like security is going to be core of applications that we can use AI in. And one of the things that I want to chat about briefly is, these new AI systems that we have, we will be able to feed them systems that may not work traditionally in terms of AV and being able to apply like a security system to it. So let me back up a little bit. So AV in general is maybe a little behind in security sometimes. So having an AI that we can apply a language model to may be able to identify systems that are not up to modern standards when it comes to security. So we may be able to have systems at university levels that seek out all the devices on a university network and determine whether they are at a proper security level. Are they not at a security level? And this is something that kind of hits home, because when I was at the university, we were asked, can we add this device from any manufacturer? Can we add it to the network because we want to stream out to a greater group? And routinely, the answer was no. Because we don't know what this device is. We don't know how it operates. We don't know an underlying operating system, etc. So an AI may be able to determine, yes, add anything to the network, and we can monitor it and be able to determine over a period of time whether it's communicating outward, if it is a security concern. And I think this is something that universities need to be ahead of the curve on in terms of being able to apply this. So that was something that popped up in terms of being able to see all the devices going on a huge network. Again, I was at a university where we had approximately 20,000 devices, and routinely we would be asked, are all the devices being monitored? And no, there's no way to, in a meaningful way, monitor all these devices and also providing security for them. It was a major concern, but an AI may be able to do something similar to that. So with that, I wanted to jump ahead a little bit to real world examples of an AI being applied at a university level. So chatting with a number of universities, right now, the locations that AI are being deployed in a significant way are at help desks. This is something that is the low-hanging fruit of higher education, is being able to communicate with users in an easy, approachable way, like maybe a chat or something like that, where AI is being used to circumvent having to have a physical person on staff answering questions. They may be able to use an AI for that. And working now for a hardware manufacturer, we are exploring and will be deploying in a short order an AI for our help desk. And this is kind of significant because this is something where we spend a significant amount of money with end users dealing with kind of rudimentary entry-level questions that we have to respond to. And we may be able to use an AI to walk a person through a project that traditionally would have taken an individual 2 to 3 hours to work through that process. And now we're able to do it with an AI. So it's a cost savings, and also an end user being kind of engaged with in a more meaningful way to do those kind of things. So we're excited about those new kind of engagements as we move forward.
And Andrew Vogel said password reset. I'm not quite sure exactly what he meant by that.
Oh, Andy, I think AI is going to be a thing that it will be able to do those rudimentary things that technicians normally would do, but in a more meaningful way. Like maybe there's an AI that can reach out, identify a piece of hardware that's on a university's network, automatically change the default password to something that is meaningful for the university, and then report that back to a central organization. Because again, when I was at the university, that was a major kind of undertaking of ours, is just getting things off of the default password. And maybe that's not what Andy was chatting about, but being able to manage thousands of pieces of hardware with an AI would be significantly meaningful for that group, because again, it's all about moving the needle forward. So with that, I just wanted to
I have on here, you're going into preparing IT departments.
Yep. So preparing IT departments, I think the most important thing is, I think people are looking at AI as a negative generally, but I think it's going to elevate IT departments to be allowed to work on tier 2 type issues and challenges for a university as compared to tier 1 issues. So AIs will be trained to take issues that are coming in. Let's say it's a general issue about desktop support or something like that, and it will be able to vet issues to elevate them to a tier 2 support, to allow a human technician to intervene at that point, as compared to today's model, which is we take every issue that is coming in, whether it be how do I reset my password, how do I connect a device to the network, etc. It will vet a lot of those issues and resolve them at a lower level, and allow humans to intervene at a tier 2, tier 3 level. So I think that's the underlying advantage to the universities in terms of AI, is allowing a technology to do some of those menial tasks that we don't want to do, aren't a value add for the university. So those are the situations that I'm most interested in.
I know there was some discussion about teacher performance and monitoring students for kind of eyes glazing over and kind of inattention, having some AI driven there to make sure students are being engaged and things like that. Do you know anything about that?
I'm aware of it. And, I think great organizations are always going to monitor their highest performers, see how they do things well. Obviously, AI can also be used in a negative way. where we are tracking every email that you're sending or tracking the meaning of every message that you send. So there definitely are negative implications for AI, but I think there are also a lot of positive ways where you may be able to take an underperforming individual within your organization and have a meaningful conversation about how to transition them into a higher performing individual, or if they are maybe not working as well within specific periods of time, transitioning them into a model where they can be a better value add. I think that's where I see AIs performing well. So yeah, there's definitely going to be monitoring going on as a potential, but I would love to hear Pasha's input in that realm.
Yeah, I don't know. This is actually the kind of work that I do for research. I use eye tracking work a lot. We, for example, do work where we have students or just generally people learn from infographics, right? Infographics are a very common medium for conveying numeric information to the public. You see it on the news all the time. And so we just finished a study, for example, where we had people learn from infographics about COVID trends in 2020 in the state of New York versus the state of Florida. And so that was interesting in the sense that we used machine learning to analyze gaze heat maps. So gaze heat maps would be where people tend to fixate their gaze, their visual attention the most when they look at certain types of graphs or, text or other components of an infographic. And so we were able to leverage machine learning to kind of tell us what high-performing students do, people who learn well with infographics, what they tend to focus on versus low performers, right? So I can see that kind of work being done. But as far as like tracking engagement in the classroom, just by having, cameras pointed at people and specifically like, the eyes glazing over and whatnot, that would be very difficult to do with like 25 people in the classroom, let's say, even now. And also, I honestly don't know. I feel like this is where the teacher needs to do their job, as a teacher. This is my personal perspective. I'm not a big fan of like Big Brother type applications of AI. But obviously, there is a lot of good stuff being done in higher ed in terms of just looking at learning patterns. Like a big source of data is learning management systems, right? Things like Canvas and Blackboard and things like that. And so
that would just add, being able to use an AI to track student performance and see when they start falling off the edge in terms of, they're not performing at a level that will consistently produce an individual that graduates from the university. That's an important thing. And being able to identify that they have hit a threshold where we need to engage with them and, whatever that mechanism is, but being able to engage and say, hey, it's time to have a conversation with this individual so that we can keep them on track. Those are valuable metrics that need to be, considered, because at the end of the day, it's all about, that meaningful, transformative relationship that an institution has with a person. So I love the idea of being able to use AI to have more meaningful relationships with folks.
So where does predictive analytics fall within the scheme of AI?
Well, I'll tell you about, again, a study that I did with the student just recently. So we worked with like more than 100 students, graduate students, PhD and master's students who take this online statistics class. And we tested different types of student dashboards, right? For showing them, this is how you did last week, this is how you did 2 weeks ago, this is how you're doing now. And so they could compare themselves, their performance, their current performance, either to their past performance, right? Or we had a group where we had students compare themselves to others, right? So you see, okay, you did this quiz, you did this project, this is where the group is, this is where you are. So what we found was that both of these types of dashboards did pretty bad things to student self-efficacy. Okay, meaning they began to think less of themselves and their ability to do statistics when they were exposed to dashboards like this. And so particularly in like the social sort of group where you're comparing yourself to others. And it's just, we need to, I'm excited about this kind of stuff as well, but I guess what I'm saying is we need to be like really careful about how we implement these things, and studying like the effects, not just on like learning, meaning, acquisition of knowledge or whatever, or skills, but also on like perceptions and things like motivation, self-efficacy. Because like I said, we had these pretty advanced students who are all adults, and these dashboards did a trick on them. They kind of made them feel bad about themselves, about their performance, even the ones that did pretty well in the class. So that's just an example, I guess.
From an AV point of view, from a designer, programmer kind of point of view, I wonder what the possibilities are of being able to say, I want a system that has 3 120-inch displays, and I want to be able to switch between 5 different sources, and want a wireless mirroring component, and I want this all integrated into a room reservation system and a attendance system. And you hit a button and it builds this thing for you, and you give it to somebody and they come install it. Is that in our future?
I mean, I'm happy to jump in there. The era of us being able to communicate with an AI and ask questions, hey, I've got a space that is 20 by 40, and what do I need in this space? Like, these are things that manufacturers are working on right now. And, the era of a person coming out to, get a tape measure and say, this is how high your ceilings are and how wide, that era is ending to a certain degree, because an AI will be able to take in all the information that you have and say, these are the speakers you need, this is the amplifier you need, this is the DSP that you need, this is the audio routing that you would need in an environment like this. And I think it's going to be a situation where you're going to have to trust the AI that you've been given, because there will be many AIs available to you. So I think you're going to have to go into this with a certain faith that the information being provided to you is accurate and what you want. But yeah, anyone thinking that these AIs won't be smart enough to think of all these unique situations, I think they're fooling themselves to a certain degree, because they're going to be able to use deep language models to determine what the best speaker is for that space, or the best audio device is for whatever application you are. So I think there are going to be AIs specific to AI or to AV in higher education that are able to determine exactly the pieces of hardware that you want or need, but it's being able to go back and say, have an understanding of what you ultimately want out of the system. So I think we're always going to be asking that question of, do you know what you want? Because at the end of the day, that's always the challenging question.
And I will add that, we just talked about how AI is all about the data, right? So these are models that are trained using data. And so the more data these manufacturers collect, about the efficacy of these different designs and setups, the better they will be able to train models that will be actually, intelligent and sensitive to different contextual factors, right? Size of the room, acoustics, all of that stuff. So in my opinion, it's all about collecting enough data for the various implementations, common implementations of AV in higher education settings, and then leveraging that data.
Yeah, well, house has to go out and find, room acoustics and frequency responses of different microphones and speakers and all kinds of very, very complex things. I mean, we're already seeing the automated camera systems, which aren't necessarily artificial intelligence, but they're pretty neat at being able to take data from microphones and point cameras at the right location. And I think that kind of thing, assisted by AI, if it can learn over time that, we'll know that isn't exactly the shot we wanted. We wanted something more like this, and it being able to refine itself by itself is something that may be coming in our future as well. At this point, we're getting close to time to kind of turn off the recording and stuff. Does Pasha, do you or Richard have any closing things you want to talk about?
I mean, I can say that the tools are out there, a ton of tools. Just a quick Google search will return, I don't know, dozens of AI tools that have free plans that you can peruse, and just with ChatGPT even, you can do so much. My daughter, over the weekend, she's a senior in high school, so she's applying for colleges. So she's trying to create a competitive college application, right? So what she did over the weekend is she used ChatGPT to create 40 questions middle and high schoolers would ask about cybersecurity and phishing and things like that, and social engineering. And so ChatGPT created a list of questions, created a table essentially with questions and answers, Q&A, right? She then copied that table into a Google Sheet, saved it as a comma-separated CSV file, right? Uploaded to a tool called Google Dialogflow that allows you to build chatbots quickly, cheaply, for free, essentially. And she now, on her website, she has this chatbot that essentially does FAQs, and students can interact with it and say, okay, how do I protect myself from phishing when I get a text about a Nike sale, whatever. So I'm just saying, if young kids can do it, we can certainly do it. And so let's just kind of explore and open our minds to the possibilities here.
I agree. The thing I was going to add is AI. We're quick to say ChatGPT, but there are so many ways to apply AI. And one of the things that we're working on right now is applying AI to voice filters and things like that. So we are on the kind of the forefront of seeing a new generation of AI or AV systems that use AV or use AI as a mechanism of creating new devices, new things that we are interacting with. So we should be prepared for these exciting new devices coming out in the near future. So things like noise reduction filters, et cetera, that are using AIs to determine, what is human voice, what is not human voice, and filtering those things through. They're here now. So I think we're in an exciting time when it comes to AV, that we will be hopefully the the individuals that are bringing this to the administrations of universities, saying these are the new technologies that we're able to introduce or bring to our learning spaces. So I'm excited about seeing these new things being implemented, whether it's your lecture capture, whether it's your audio systems, whether it's your video systems. I think we're just now seeing how these will be implemented, and it's not just Chat GTP. I think it'll be all these other systems as well that we need to be ready and prepared for. So I'm excited. Hopefully other people are excited and it's not all doom and gloom, because already I'm seeing AIs help me in a personal way in my day-to-day kind of applications and roles and responsibilities. So I hope that's true for other people as well.
All right, thank you. George, George is going to take us out, but stick around. We are going to have a conversation after this. We're just going to turn off the recording.
Yeah, thanks, Trey. Richard, Pasha, thank you so much. That was amazing. Quite a few takeaways from me, but honestly, this is a wonderful kickoff for this 4-part series. Folks, mark your calendars. December 7th is the next one, in Leadership and Campus Administration. We'll be going over campus policies and impact of AI. I'm really looking forward to that session as well. We really want you to stick around. I'm looking up beautiful AI already, as Pasha mentioned, for my future presentations. I signed up for my 2-week trial already, if you guys are wondering. But the recording is going to stop, but I really, really welcome everyone to stay back and have an open conversation. I see the chat's going here. So, at that point, feel free to unmute yourself and talk over me or anybody else speaking. More than welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, thank you.